Mercia. Made for Coventry and Warwickshire.
Well, firstly, congratulations, Judy. Well deserved.
Thank you. I feel like I'm coming down to earth really slowly.
And I bet, 30 years ago, you wouldn't have expected this to be happening to you,
No.
would you?
I would have freaked. Mind you, I freaked anyway. I'd have freaked 30 years ago. I was terrified last night, but yeah, it's fantastic. I just still can't believe, why me? That's amazing.
So take us back then. Take us back to why you decided to set up Baby Lifeline in the first place.
Well, I was nursing. I trained in Coventry as a nurse, and I was waiting for my final results, and I got married quite young, and became pregnant. I was absolutely delighted, and I actually worked on the gynecological wards actually at the time, and I felt fine. I felt absolutely fine, and then at about 5 months, I felt one day I was due to go on duty, and I just felt really unwell. Couldn't explain it. And it was quite difficult for anybody to understand what was going on. I went over to the hospital and couldn't find anything wrong, and then things really became quite dramatic. I was very, very ill. I was in labour, and it was horrific, absolutely horrific. I was stunned, and I gave birth in the end. It was quite an emergency situation, and I gave birth to a little girl who was actually just died as she was being born. So, but in those days, you weren't allowed to sort of see I wasn't allowed to see her. I was told that she was perfect, etc. Couldn't find anything wrong with her. She was incinerated. It was awful. So I was really quite, it was a horrible, horrible, horrible thing to happen. But I was told, don't worry, it won't happen again. Just go ahead, have another one. We couldn't find anything wrong.
Is that your phone?
Switch it off. I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
Oh my God.
Big congratulations.
This telegraph. So I'll what I'll do. There you are. I'm so sorry.
That's all right.
Sorry.
Don't worry.
So where was I? And you edit.
Yeah. We were just saying how you were told that there was that was it.
I was told they couldn't find anything wrong, so there was absolutely no reason why I shouldn't have another baby. Get over it, And I did become pregnant again some months later, and went through the pregnancy feeling a little worse during the pregnancy, just not feeling 100%. But I got past the stage. I was 6 months pregnant with the first one, first little girl, Lisa. I got to 24 weeks, and I got to 25 weeks, and I thought, great. And then just one day, I was really busy. I'd sort of cooked dinner, had friends round, fine, and then just felt really unwell, and pains and everything else. I thought, oh my God, I was 25 and a half weeks pregnant. So I went over to the hospital, and I was in labour. And again, traumatic time. Well, traumatic for me mentally as much as anything else. And I gave birth to a little girl, Emma, who was very tiny, and she was alive. She went to special care and struggled for life for about a day, and that was pretty awful. Although I was sort of, they were saying that I was sort of very shocked at the time. I didn't feel, I just felt cold. It was very weird. But it took its toll later. And then a little while later, I think about a year later, again they kept saying, well, can't find anything wrong. I had a funeral for her, she had to have a post-mortem. Couldn't find anything. Judy, it's just one of those things again. Have another one. So I did, and I had a horrific time with the third one. Stayed in hospital for the last month of my pregnancy. Passed the date again, got to 27 weeks, which, now babies survive quite well at 27 weeks. But again, had quite a dramatic time in that I suddenly went into labour. Everything went horribly wrong. I can just remember a sea of faces, with doctors and everybody trying to do what they could. Pulled out, got little Stuart and rushed him to special care, but he had a brain hemorrhage, one of the things that happens, and it was pretty awful. 24 hours and he died. So after that, I have to say, I felt absolutely traumatised, and I just didn't know what to do with myself. So I decided I couldn't go near the baby unit. Every time I went anywhere near or talked about things, I was shook like a leaf. But I had to do something. And I went to support groups, and I found that I was becoming more depressed talking about people that were going through these experiences, and I just needed to do something positive. So that's when I thought of raising some money, just to keep me focused. And that's how it started. It actually started with a box of chocolates, which became an incubator, which became Baby Lifeline now, about 9 million later. It's funny actually, you know, last night, just sort of going a bit last night I was joined by Coventry babies, and that was amazing. That was a surprise, but one of them was the first baby in the first incubator, Paul Edwards, who's now nearly 30, or 29. That was incredible. So yeah, I started, my fundraising started, funnily enough, with Mercia as well. Am I allowed to say that?
Yeah, of course, yeah.
One of my first supporters, there was the newspaper and Mercia Sound. One of our consultant anaesthetists was a director here. And, you know, they started to sort of support and get all the publicity, and it really was fantastic. Coventry really embraced the whole story, which was great. It kept me focused and very busy. And we did all sorts of things. I think the first fundraising event was a barge trip, and I remember a small group of health professionals I work with going on board, and I'd forgotten the raffle ticket, so we had to use the toilet paper, you know, the aisle. Please wash your hands on it. Hard toilet paper. God, you couldn't do that nowadays. I had a disco. The community spirit was fantastic, and we just became a name in Coventry, and then slowly out to Warwickshire, and started to raise quite a bit of money. We established as a charity in 1981. I became pregnant to my horror, and I was really scared. But I'd actually found a consultant who'd come from London to Birmingham, actually, to the women's hospital. And there was just a feeling when I went to see him that if ever it happened again, that I felt he may be able to help. And sure enough, I went in to have scans at just 5 weeks. I was given injections, 3 injections a week for 30 weeks, like a pincushion. I had surgery, you know, to sort of keep the neck of the womb tight. Everything, you name it, it's called belt and braces. And I was hospitalised for quite a lot of the time. I came back to Coventry at 36 weeks, I think, and I had Richard in Coventry. He's now 28, and I remember it was fantastic, really. You know, the Lord Mayor bringing flowers, and the hospital ringing round every ward telling everybody, and being on the Coventry billboards, you know, Coventry nurse mum at last. That was fantastic. So, but while I was in hospital, I was fundraising, much to everybody's annoyance because I had the phone on the ward. And I was fundraising for a ball which we held, and the Coventry Lord Mayor and Mercia and everybody was there. So that, you know, that was the beginning. People ask, there's so much that's happened. I've met so many people. There have been highs and there have been lows, I have to say. But, you know, there have been some amazing stories. I started to go from equipment into training about 12 years ago, when we looked at reports that were showing that whilst equipment was very important, actually specialists, what we call cutting edge training, teaching health professionals in the best practice to look for emergencies, to learning the latest techniques, was, you know, very, very important, because at the time it was showing that a baby a day on average was dying through through human error. So we started to look at training, and that's what we're really famed for now, multidisciplinary training. Even we work with lawyers as well. Multidisciplinary, where hospitals, where people say, well, why are you providing training? Because hospitals do their own. Well, they do, but what we do is that we bring hospitals together, talking, where, you know, instead of having your own little territory and thinking one way's right, you've got people talking together from all over, so it really does bring about best practice. some of the highlights, I mean, we launched at the Royal Albert Hall, and again, Coventry, Mercia, and the newspapers were involved in that. That was incredible. Started off as a little event that we were going to hold in Coventry, ended up in the Royal Albert Hall with Louise was, you know, eternal. All sorts of big names filled it. That was just, you know, I remember sitting in the back in shock. How the heck did we get here? How the heck did we do it? So we've, another high, I suppose, was when I took 23 midwives, you know, doctors, etc., out to Kuwait about 4 years ago now, and we worked with the army and got 35 doctors out of Iraq to help them to train. We had 3 days training. That was amazing. I raised £100,000 in Kuwait. It came from Kuwaitis who were sympathetic at the time, and that was the most amazing adventure. We've been to Abu Dhabi. Some of our training materials, you know, it's been all over the world actually. In fact, Ben Kingsley embarrassed me with that last night, telling everybody, been everywhere, it's global, you know. So yeah, we've done all sorts, raised about 9 million, hard work. I really want Baby Lifeline to carry on though, because what the aim is to give the best care possible, get the best possible outcome possible, we say, because there's always going to be things that go wrong for mothers and babies, and caring for the future. So I'm praying now. I mean, last night was the Pride of Britain Awards, was a massive shock. I didn't think I'd make it. I'm going to faint, I'm going to wobble off the stage, oh my God, you know. But I'm hoping that that really, really helps the cause and builds Baby Lifeline up and gets more support and gets more money that we can actually put into really worthy projects.
And how did you feel when you saw all those children who've been helped through your charity with the equipment that your charity paid for?
Well, that was a shock. I mean, that was an absolutely amazing shock. They were all in the back. They were all told not to tell me anything. It was all done in secret. I mean, it was a shock anyway. The whole thing was a shock. I've never seen so many celebrities, you know. It was quite daunting. And then Ben Kingsley, our patron, came out. And of course, he's been with the charity for 26 years now. My sister actually delivered his babies. And he told everybody that last night. And it was just after he made Gandhi's that he became involved. And he's been absolutely great. So it's a shock that he came on and gave me the award, because I didn't know that either. And then to see, it was lovely to see Coventry babies, ranging from 30 to a few weeks old, that had been on equipment. You know, as I say, Paul Edwards, the first baby in the first incubator, you know, we've still got pictures of me as a nurse looking over the incubator. He wouldn't fit in it now, I have to say, and he admits that. So but, you know, it was really amazing, very moving.
And I mean, where do you see yourselves and Baby Lifeline, say, in 10 years' time? What's your big aim for it?
I should be a lot older. Well, I hope. I mean, we're already... I would like to get more funding. I mean, the serious... You know, we've got a serious mission. We've got an equipment appeal led by Judy Ledger, who's the Vice President, where local, you know, money's raised locally in areas all across the country, and in Coventry and Warwickshire as well, where people can see their money go locally. We're looking for equipment for mother and baby units, for special care baby units, ranging anything from handheld fetal monitors, little, you know, devices that monitor the unborn baby's heartbeat, to scanners, to incubators, etc. On the other side, we've got some very serious training as well, for midwives, for doctors, for anaesthetists, all the healthcare professionals that are responsible for mothers and babies' care. And we've got some amazing projects that we really need money for. And so I hope, what I'd like to see in 10 years, in direct response to that, I'd like to look at succession planning. I don't think I'll ever give up Baby Lifeline, but I'd like to perhaps ease off slightly and get support so that we can really make it an established charity with proper business support, a proper future, a strong, strong future.